Good morning, friends, and welcome back. I am Patty Elhoff, the author of Upcycle with Decoupage, and today I thought I would show you how I took this French horn that you can buy in the craft store. These are very cheap in the craft store. They're especially out around Christmas time. And I turned it into a shabby chic but a music-inspired French horn wreath. And I will show you the easy instructions on how to get this done. The link to my website is just below this video in the description box, and I will have a list of all of the supplies you'll need on there. And the French horns, as I said, you can get these in craft stores, thrift stores. And what I did was I spray painted it white because most of them are brass, and I took this music note themed napkin and I'm going to tear little pieces of the notes to fit all around the horn. So the first thing I'm going to do though is tear away the hard edges. And when you're using napkins to decoupage, two sides of the napkin have edges like this where it's very challenging to tear away these hard edges. So what I'm going to do is take my water brush, and you can use a paintbrush for this, and I'm just going to wet the edge of the napkin so that I can tear this hard edge off very easily, because we don't want any of these hard edges showing in our work. And just use your fingernail to remove those edges. And when you're all done with the two sides that need to be torn this way, you can just go over to the other sides and simply tear along one edge. So you see how it's coming away a lot easier here? There we go. And so do that for, I only needed one napkin for this whole project, so just do this for one napkin. And by the way, you do not want to separate your napkins yet. You want to make sure there's still the full 3-ply. Now we're going to tear out little sections. And what you might want to do to make it a lot easier on yourself is first tear out a couple of sections where you know you're going to need that size. So down here on the bottom, I'm going to need a longer piece like this. But then when I get over to the circular part of this horn, I know that I'm going to need much smaller pieces like this one to go around. And I'm going to tear several pieces that are about this size to go around all of these circular parts of the horn. And I have a little bit of napkin decoupage glue there on the table. And what I'm going to do is just start to paint these on. And by paint, I mean I'm laying the napkin over a dry surface. These are all separated now. And just like I'm painting it on, I'm going to work in one section at a time and wrap the napkin around the surface and go around the back. You can see I have a little too much there, but that's okay. When it dries, you can easily tear it away. I'm not really concerned about how the back looks because you're not going to see that at all. But if you are concerned about how the back looks, maybe you're selling this or giving it away as a gift, then all you have to do is just paint the napkin around the edge. Now you can tear it off so that you have a nice even look on the back too. And I'm trying to keep all of these music notes going in the same direction. And it is okay to overlap on the edges here. All you need to do is take a nail file once this is dry and just file those overlapping edges away. And once you've covered the entire horn, you want to go around the whole surface just to make sure every part of the napkin is securely down on your surface. And I'm going to put this aside to dry for a while. I try to put it in the warmest room in the house so that it dries a little bit quicker than just leaving it out to air dry. Now once this was completely dry, I took my triple thick glaze and some of the Martha Stewart glitter, and by the way, here's the area where I overlapped a little. So I just took a nail file and got rid of those excess pieces. And I put the triple thick even on the inside here just to finish it, make it look a little more finished. And I'm using the triple thick as a very high gloss glaze, but also it doubles as a nice glue. I then took the Martha Stewart glitter and placed it on the inside. Now I'm going to cover the whole surface with this triple thick glue. And don't forget, you have to use a paintbrush, an artist's paintbrush or a bristle brush, as opposed to a sponge brush with the triple thick. So I'm just going to cover the whole surface with triple thick and glitter and then put this aside to dry. And once this was dry, I took it outside to take a picture of it, and I had a little visitor out in the backyard. So I thought it was so funny. I took a picture of the deer in the center of this. But here's how this looks under some very pretty Christmas lights. And I'm going to come back and I'll show you how we add the rest of the elements onto this. And what I did was I took some of this, now everything is dry by the way, so I took some of this lace that I have on a spool, and I counted out about 10 feet of this and then cut it. Now I'll slow this down so that you can see what I did. In order to make the ribbon for this, I bunched up the end and I looped it around my fingers, and you can use any wire for this. I took this paper covered wire. It was a little difficult to work with, and I just attached this. So again, I wrapped it into a loop, and then I took a wire and made the wire a little bit longer than I needed it to be and attached it right through the center of this loop and wrapped it around the back. And you can see I pinched it in the back here and tied it tightly, not tied it, but I wound it around itself so that it was nice and tight back there. I then took the long end of the lace and I made a loop, and you want to check this out up against your French horn to see what size you would like. You don't want it to be too large or too small. Now I'm putting this right here, and I wanted to make sure this didn't look too large because I'm going to make all of the loops this same size. So I like the size of that, and I decided what I'm going to do is make 6 loops this same size, so 5 more, and I'm just pinching it back here, making the loop, and I'm going to use that excess wire to do the same thing. Wrap it around the back and make sure that I secure those 2 loops. And I'm just going to repeat this step 4 more times. And you can fluff these bows out as you're going along the way. And I found 2 things out as I was doing this. First of all, it is much easier to work with wired ribbon. I didn't have any wired lace ribbon, and this is kind of so pretty the way it is. I really didn't want the wire on the end. So what I decided to do was iron this with some heavy spray starch. Oh, one more thing before the ironing. This very long tail that I had, what I did was I took the end and put it up at the very top around the back so that I could hide it, and I just did the same thing. So I made one really long loop and tied it up with the wire. Then I just went down to the bottom here and I cut this on an angle so that I had these nice 2 long trailing ends. Now to get back to why I ironed it, or how I ironed this. So I just took a pillowcase, laid it down, some very heavy duty spray starch, ironed it over the surface of the lace. That made the lace that much more firm and easy to work with. And then I started over just following those same steps that I just showed you. It was much, you see I'm going very heavy on this starch. It's the only time I like to iron. Then when I was done making the bow, I put a plastic cup inside of each loop. I did this separately. Sprayed it with even more starch, and don't use a heat gun on this. They're too hot. It could melt the plastic cup or melt the lace ribbon, depending on if it's an acrylic or a cotton. And then I just used a blow dryer and I dried it. It took a little extra time, but it gave it just a little bit more firmness. When I was all done doing this, I took that same wire and I wrapped the ribbon around the French horn, and I put it through that loop, that small loop that we made originally, so that this would be hidden. And I flipped it over so you can see, here's how it looks on the back. Just make this nice and tight. I'm just going to puff these loops out a little bit again. And one other thing I'm going to do with the ribbon, I have some spray adhesive. This is also on my website. And I did put some gloves on because this is very sticky stuff. Naturally, it's an adhesive. And I didn't want it to get on my fingers or my nails. It'll really help you out if you put some gloves on. And I sprayed a light coating over each loop individually. And then I took some glitter, my favorite. I have a couple of Martha Stewart glitters. This one is more like the snowy type, and then I have the big chunky glitter. A lot of times if you add both of those, it will give a very nice dimensional look with the two different size glitters. One is coarse and one is fine. And I just went around all of these loops and did this, and I did it also on the tail. And now I took a bunch of these Christmas picks, and I wanted one central piece, which is what I got the deer for. And I used the stem parts of these to go through this center piece of the ribbon. And I just arranged a bunch of these. They've all got wire in them, so you can twist them and wrap them. I wanted them to kind of go along the edge of the horn. So I placed them through the center piece. And I did use some hot glue and added a bunch of these where I saw fit. And I wanted to make sure that I liked the placement of these first before I hot glued them. And you can see that I'm hiding the ends in that one center loop again. And I wanted to make sure I liked where I placed everything before I added the glue. So once I was happy with the placement of everything, I then started to take the hot glue and make sure everything was much more secure. And with a couple of these end pieces of the wire that's left over from the stem of those picks, I made sure to put them in back of the lace and kind of help the bow stand out a little bit more. And you can start to see that there's a lot of glitter on the bow. And when I was done, I found it helped to glue some of the end pieces using the hot glue, the end pieces of these Christmas picks. And this is just to secure everything a little bit more. And I played around with the wire to make sure that it followed the design, the shape of the French horn, so that things weren't just flying around. I wanted them kind of going in that circular motion. And as the last touch, I just added my little deer. And this was also in the Christmas section of the craft store. I just added it right in the center of the ribbon. And here is how our wreath looks. Now this is just the centerpiece. I'll show you a bunch of different shots of it. But here it is, the whole thing hanging on a door in our house. And if the weather is permitting tomorrow and the sun actually comes out, I will get this outside and I'll take one more picture or video of it so that you can see it outside. If you hang this in a nice sunny part of your house, you'll be able to see all of this beautiful glitter. And to me, these glittery objects, the shiny, fiery ones, they really add to the holiday season, and they're very eye-catching when company comes over. So here's how our project turned out for this week. I hope you guys like this. My website is Upcycle Decoupage, and the link is below in the description of this video. You can go over and purchase all of your products or some of them or your supplies there. You can also have a look around. There are plenty of other things on the website to have a look at. Upcycle with Decoupage is also on Facebook If you go over and like and follow the page, you'll be notified every week when I put a new video out. And subscriptions are very, very important to us when we work on YouTube. So please take that extra moment to subscribe. I really appreciate that. I try to get back to you as soon as I can. So if you have a question for me, you can leave it below. It is taking a little longer than a full week for me to get back to you, especially around the holiday season. There are lots of questions and requests. So I'll try to help you as soon as I can. And my website does go through Amazon, so if you've got Amazon Prime, all of the same features apply. And you can purchase anything that you want from Amazon, not just what I have on my site, while you're over there through my site. So once again, guys, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. I will see you next week with another video. Thanks again, friends. Bye-bye.